The sun beat down on Samuel Hayes, relentless as ever. 3 years of drought had turned his 50 acres into a wasteland of cracked earth and withered dreams. He stood at the edge of his property, squinting at the distant hills where the forbidden land began. The locals called it the Dead Stretch, 20 acres his grandfather had purchased dirt cheap back in '52, land nobody would touch. Samuel wiped sweat from his leathery brow and adjusted his hat. His jeans hung loose on his frame, a testament to meals skipped and hope dwindling. The shovel in his hand felt heavier than it should. "You're a fool, Sam Hayes," he muttered to himself. He trudged forward anyway, boots kicking up dust that settled on his already filthy clothes. The temperature seemed to drop as he crossed onto the dead stretch, though the sun remained merciless overhead. Birds stopped singing. The wind died. Even the cicadas fell silent. The spot called to him somehow, a slight depression in the ground beneath a twisted oak. Samuel drove the shovel into the earth with a grunt. The soil gave way easier than expected, as if eager to be disturbed. By sundown, the hole was shoulder-deep. Samuel paused, muscles burning, when his shovel struck something hard. Not rock, metal. He scraped away the dirt to reveal a rusted metal plate with strange markings. When he pried it loose, the ground beneath him trembled. A geyser of liquid erupted from the hole, spraying his face and clothes. Samuel stumbled backward, wiping his eyes. The substance was warm, thick, and red as fresh blood. It pooled around his boots, seeping into the parched earth that seemed to drink it greedily. Samuel stared at his stained hands, heart hammering against his ribs. What had he done? The Hayes farmhouse had seen better days. Paint peeled from its weathered boards, and the porch sagged in the middle like an old mare's back. Inside wasn't much better, sparse furnishings, faded photographs, and a layer of dust on everything except the kitchen table and his late wife's rocking chair. Samuel scrubbed his hands raw in the kitchen sink, but the reddish tinge remained under his fingernails. The well water sputtered from the tap, a reminder of how precious each drop had become. The county reservoir had dropped to 12% capacity last week. Fields lay barren for miles around. Cattle were being sold off or put down when they grew too weak. He glanced at Martha's photograph on the wall. 5 years gone now, but her eyes still followed him around the room. "What would you make of this, Marty?" he asked the empty kitchen. Martha had loved this land even when it didn't love them back. Through droughts and floods, through the stillbirth of their only child, through the cancer that ate her from the inside out. "This land has a soul, Sam," she told him once. "Sometimes it's just hurting too much to give." Samuel collapsed into a chair at the kitchen table. His dinner, beans from a can, sat untouched. Instead, he pulled out a metal box from beneath the table. Inside lay the family papers, deeds, birth certificates, old letters. He rifled through them until he found what he was looking for, a yellowed envelope addressed to his grandfather, dated 1953. Samuel had found it years ago but had dismissed it as the ravings of a distant relative. Now, he read it again with new eyes. "Dear Edward," it began in shaky handwriting. "I must warn you about the land you've purchased. There is water there, more than you could imagine, but it comes at a price. The natives wouldn't touch it. The Spanish missionaries sealed it away. I found it by accident in '38 and sealed it again. Whatever you do, don't dig on the east side beneath the crooked oak. What comes up looks like blood but isn't. It brings life but takes it too. I've said too much already. Burn this letter." His grandfather hadn't burned it, and now Samuel had unsealed whatever had been hidden. Sleep evaded him that night. Every creak of the old house jerked him awake. By dawn, he'd made up his mind. He would return to the dead stretch and fill in the hole. Forget what he'd seen. Find another way. But when he arrived, others were already there. Bill Matheson from the neighboring farm stood at the edge of the hole, which had widened overnight. The red liquid now filled a depression the size of a small pond. 2 other men from town, the Peterson brothers, stood nearby, their truck parked haphazardly on the field's edge. "Morning, Sam," Bill said, not taking his eyes off the pool. "Heard something happened out here yesterday. Didn't believe it till now." Samuel approached cautiously. "How'd you hear?" "Peterson boys were hunting rabbits, saw the commotion. Word spreads fast when there's water involved." Bill knelt down, reaching toward the liquid. "Don't touch it." Samuel lunged forward, grabbing Bill's arm. Bill jerked back, eyeing Samuel suspiciously. "What the hell, Sam? What is this stuff?" "I don't know," Samuel admitted, "but it's not right. Found it yesterday. It came up from deep underground." The elder Peterson brother, Roy, stepped closer. "Don't look like water to me. Looks like blood." "It's not blood," Samuel said, though he wasn't certain. Bill frowned. "You're on cursed land, Sam. Everyone knows that. My granddaddy used to say bodies were buried here during the settler days. Said the ground drank more blood than rain. That's just superstition, Samuel said, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe, Bill conceded. But this drought ain't superstition. My last well dried up Tuesday. County's talking water rationing next week. If this is water, whatever color it is, we need it. The four men stood in silence, watching as the red pool rippled in a wind none of them could feel. By noon, half the county had heard about the blood-red well. By evening, the sheriff had put up barriers and called the state environmental agency. They took samples in little vials, men in white suits treating the site like a hazardous spill. Samuel watched from the sidelines as his discovery became public property. Mayor Wilson arrived with the town council, talking about community resources and drought solutions. The land might belong to Samuel Hayes, but water rights in a drought became everybody's business. He returned home as the sun set, finding a black sedan parked outside his house. A woman in a charcoal pantsuit leaned against it, scrolling through her phone. "Mr. Hayes," she called as he approached. "I'm Dr. Eleanor Reeves, hydrologist with the State University. May I have a word?" Inside, she declined his offer of coffee, instead spreading maps across his kitchen table. "Your discovery is remarkable," she said, her voice clinically precise. "Preliminary tests show it's water, H2O, but with an extremely high mineral content, including iron oxides that give it the red coloration. Is it safe?" Samuel asked. Dr. Reeves hesitated. "For irrigation, possibly. For drinking? We're running more tests. But Mr. Hayes, what interests me is how you found it. This region shouldn't have groundwater access like this. The geological surveys." "I just dug," Samuel interrupted. "Had a feeling." She studied him with narrowed eyes. "A feeling. Right. Well, your feeling might have found the only viable water source in 3 counties. The governor's office is interested. There's talk of emergency appropriation, pipeline construction." "It's my land," Samuel said quietly. "Of course," she nodded. "You'd be compensated. But in times of crisis, certain legal measures." "It's my land," he repeated, louder this time. "And I'm not sure we should be messing with that water." Dr. Reeves gathered her maps with a sigh. "Mr. Hayes, people are desperate. Livestock are dying. Crops are failing. Whatever your concerns, they need to be weighed against the needs of thousands." After she left, Samuel returned to the metal box. Beneath the letter was a small leather-bound journal he'd never paid much attention to. It had belonged to his great-grandmother, filled mostly with household accounts and recipes. But in the back pages, he found entries from 1896, written in a different hand, his great-grandfather's. October 3rd found something strange on the East Acres today. A stone circle with markings. Natives, maybe. Dug near it looking for arrowheads and struck water, but it came up red as blood. Horse wouldn't drink it. Got spooked and nearly threw me. October 5th went back to the red spring. It's grown larger. The grass around it is greener than anything I've seen in months. Drought's got everyone desperate, thinking of diverting it to the south field. October 12th, corn in the south field grew 6 inches in 3 days. Never seen anything like it. Martha says it ain't natural. Says I should cover up the spring. October 20th, cattle broke through the fence and drank from the red pool. Found them dead this morning, bloated like they'd been dead for days, though they were fine yesterday. Going to fill in that cursed hole tomorrow. The entry stopped there. Samuel closed the journal, a chill running through him despite the warm night. Dreams plagued Samuel that night, visions of red water rising, flooding his fields, the town, washing away everything in its path. He saw faces in the crimson tide, mouths open in silent screams. He woke to pounding on his door. Sheriff Dawson stood on his porch, hat in hand. "Sam, we got a situation at your well." The dead stretch had transformed overnight. A crowd of 30 or more people gathered around the red pool, which had doubled in size. Some filled jugs and buckets. Others simply stared. A local news van was parked nearby, a reporter doing a live stand-up. "I tried to keep them back," Sheriff Dawson explained as they approached. "But Johnson's boy is sick from drinking it, and now everyone's all stirred up." "Drinking it?" Samuel felt sick. "I told you it wasn't safe." "You told me you didn't know what it was," the sheriff corrected. "State boys say it's just mineral water. Iron and such." Mayor Wilson intercepted them before they reached the crowd. His round face was flushed with excitement. "Sam, there you are. Governor's office called this morning. They're sending engineers tomorrow. This could save the whole county, maybe the whole state." "Mayor, a boy got sick," Samuel protested. Wilson waved dismissively. Drank too much, too fast. Doctor says it's just dehydration. Look around you, Sam. Look what's happening. Samuel looked. The ground around the pool had changed. Where yesterday there had been only cracked earth, now green shoots pushed through the soil. The twisted oak seemed to stand taller, its leaves fuller. As the day wore on, the crowd grew. News crews arrived from the city. A National Guard truck brought water specialists. Samuel watched from the shade of his truck as his private nightmare became a public spectacle. Dr. Reeves found him there late in the afternoon. They're calling it a miracle, she said, sliding into the passenger seat uninvited. The water table readings are off the charts. Whatever you tapped into, it's massive and it's spreading. Wells that were dry for months are filling again. And the red color? Samuel asked. Dissipates with distance. By the time it reaches the county reservoir, it'll be clear. She studied him. You don't seem pleased. Something ain't right about it, he said. This land was cursed for a reason. Dr. Reeves sighed. Mr. Hayes, I deal in science, not superstition. And the science says this water, while unusual, could save countless lives and livelihoods. As she spoke, a commotion erupted near the pool. A woman screamed. Samuel jumped from the truck, pushing through the crowd. A man lay convulsing on the ground, red liquid dribbling from his mouth. His skin had taken on a grayish hue, veins standing out black against his neck. Get back! Samuel shouted, kneeling beside the man. He recognized him as Pete Wilkins, a cattle farmer from the North County. Pete's eyes rolled back, body arching in pain. Then, as suddenly as it began, the seizure stopped. Pete lay still, breathing shallowly. He'll be fine, Mayor Wilson announced, helping the paramedics load Pete into an ambulance. Just overheated, that's all. But Samuel had seen the fear in the paramedics' eyes. This was no heat stroke. That night, Samuel returned to the dead stretch alone. The crowds had dispersed, leaving behind trash and trampled earth. The red pool gleamed in the moonlight, larger than ever. He knelt at its edge, studying his reflection in the crimson surface. The liquid moved strangely, not like water, more like something alive, pulsing with its own rhythm. A glint caught his eye, something half buried in the mud nearby. Samuel dug it out with his fingers, a small metal box, similar to his own but much older. Inside was a journal bound in cracked leather, its pages brittle with age. Samuel took it home, reading by lamplight at his kitchen table. The journal belonged to a Spanish missionary from 1763, translated from the original Spanish by someone in the 1800s. The natives call this place the Bleeding Ground. One entry read, They say their ancestors sealed away a great evil here, a spirit that feeds on suffering. They warned us not to disturb the stone circle, but Padre Gonzalez believes it to be pagan superstition. Another entry, dated weeks later, We have unleashed something unholy. The water from the earth runs red like blood. Our crops grow with unnatural speed, but the cattle that drink from it die in agony. Padre Gonzalez performed an exorcism, to no avail. 3 of our brothers have fallen ill with a strange malady. The final entry chilled Samuel to the bone. We have sealed the devil's well as best we could. The native shaman helped us, though many of his people died in the ritual. He says the seal will hold for many generations, but not forever. The land remembers. The land thirsts. May God forgive us for what we've done, and may those who come after us heed our warning. Samuel closed the journal, his decision made. Dawn broke over a changed landscape. The red water had seeped outward overnight, creating a marsh where dry land had been. Plants grew visibly, stems stretching upward before his eyes. Birds circled overhead, drawn to the sudden abundance. Samuel parked his truck at the property line and walked in, carrying a backpack and his grandfather's old shotgun. He wasn't sure what he planned to do, only that something needed to be done. He found Dr. Reeves already there with a team of researchers, taking samples and measurements. It's spreading faster than we predicted, she told him, excitement overriding her usual clinical tone. The groundwater is rising throughout the county. Wells are filling. The reservoir gained 2 feet overnight. And the people who got sick? Samuel asked. Her expression darkened. There have been incidents, but the benefits far outweigh. How many? 7 hospitalizations. But they're stabilized now. Samuel looked past her to where construction equipment was being unloaded from flatbed trucks. What's all this? The governor declared a state of emergency. They're installing pumps to direct the flow to the reservoir. She hesitated. I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes. I know this is your land, but the emergency powers override. It needs to be stopped, Samuel interrupted. Not pumped. Stopped. Sealed up again. Dr. Reeves stared at him. That's not going to happen. Do you understand what this means? This water could end the drought across 3 states. It ain't just water, Samuel insisted. Read this. He handed her the missionary's journal. She flipped through it with growing impatience. Mr. Hayes, these are superstitions from people who didn't understand basic hydrology. Yes, the mineral content is unusual, but... A shout interrupted her. One of the construction workers had collapsed, blood streaming from his nose and ears. His colleagues backed away in horror as his skin began to mottle and darken. In the confusion, Samuel slipped away, making his way to the center of the red marsh. The original pool had expanded into a small lake now, the water moving with that same unnatural rhythm he'd noticed before. He waded in, the liquid warm around his boots. It seemed to pull at him, eager for his presence. The journal had mentioned a stone circle, a seal. If he could find it, maybe he could close this thing again. The water reached his knees, then his waist. Behind him, he heard shouting Dr. Reeves and others calling him back. He ignored them, pushing forward. His foot struck something solid, a ring of stones beneath the surface. Samuel dropped to his knees, submerging himself to the chest as he felt along the underwater structure. His fingers found grooves, symbols carved into the stone. The water around him began to churn and bubble. A voice called his name, not from the shore, but from the depths below. It sounded like Martha. Sam, it whispered. You found it. You freed it. Let it flow. You're not Martha, Samuel growled through clenched teeth. The land remembers, the voice continued, ignoring his protest. The land thirsts. But not for water, Sam. For pain. For sacrifice. Samuel's hands found a keystone in the circle, larger than the others. He pushed against it, trying to slot it back into place. The voice grew angry. Stop. The drought will return. The people will suffer. Is that what you want? Images flashed through Samuel's mind, withered crops, dying livestock, children crying from hunger. Then other images, people convulsing, skin turning gray, veins black with poison. There's always a price, Samuel muttered, straining against the stone. On shore, the crowd had grown. Mayor Wilson shouted through a bullhorn. Hayes, get out of there. The engineers need to work. Samuel ignored him, focusing all his strength on the keystone. It moved slightly, grinding against its neighbors. The red water began to swirl faster, rising around him. It pulled at his clothes, his skin, trying to drag him under. The voice that wasn't Martha's screamed in rage. With a final desperate heave, Samuel shoved the keystone into place. The ground beneath him shuddered. The water receded suddenly, as if being sucked down a drain. Then it erupted upward in a geyser, launching Samuel into the air. He crashed back down into shallow water, stunned but alive. The red pool was gone. In its place was a small spring of clear water, bubbling gently from between the restored stone circle. People rushed toward him, Dr. Reeves, Sheriff Dawson, others he didn't recognize. They pulled him to shore, bombarding him with questions he couldn't answer. What happened? Where did the water go? What did you do? Samuel sat on the muddy bank, exhausted beyond words. Dr. Reeves knelt beside him, her face a mask of scientific confusion. It's impossible, she kept saying. The readings we were getting. All that water can't just disappear. Not disappeared, Samuel finally managed. Sealed away. Like it was before. Mayor Wilson pushed through, face purple with rage. Do you have any idea what you've done? You condemned this county. That water was our salvation. It was poison, Samuel said quietly, wrapped in a pretty promise. In the days that followed, Samuel became a pariah. News reports blamed him for destroying the miracle spring. Death threats arrived in his mailbox. Someone painted murderer across his barn door. But other news trickled in too. The 7 hospitalized people recovered once the red water was gone. Pete Wilkins described nightmares of drowning in blood, of voices promising abundance in exchange for suffering. A week after Samuel sealed the well, rain clouds gathered for the first time in 3 years. The downpour lasted 2 days, filling creeks and reservoirs across the county. Dr. Reeves visited him again, her scientific certainty shaken. The meteorological patterns shifted overnight, she explained, sitting at his kitchen table. It's as if sealing that spring changed something fundamental in the local atmosphere. The land remembers, Samuel said, echoing the voice from the depths. The land thirsts. That's not scientific, she protested weakly. Neither was that red water. Samuel returned to the dead stretch one last time, a month after everything happened. The spring still flowed, but the water remained clear and pure. Tests showed it was just ordinary groundwater, safe to drink. He built a small stone wall around it and posted a sign, Hey, spring. Drink if you need. Remember what came before. The drought ended that fall. Crops returned the following spring. Life in the county resumed its normal rhythms. People's memories of the blood-red well faded, becoming just another tall tale to tell around campfires. But Samuel remembered. He visited the spring every week, checking the stone circle, making sure the seal held. Sometimes, when the wind was right, he thought he could hear whispers from beneath the earth, promises of abundance, of miracles without price. He never dug another well. And when visitors asked about the small spring with its protective stone wall and cryptic sign, he told them only this: some things stay buried for a reason. Some thirsts are best left unquenched. At night, he still dreamed of red water rising, of a voice that sounded like Martha but wasn't. And in the dream, he always made the same choice, to seal away the darkness, no matter the cost. Because some salvations come at too high a price. Some curses, once broken, can never be undone.